Hello and welcome to the Plat podcast. We've got another episode today, and it'll be a shorter one because we're recording this late and we're getting out, so we're going to do things a little bit different, hopefully a little bit quicker. Um, with me, as always, we have Wally,
What's up? How's it going?
and today we're talking about the North American Regional Event 2, Stage 2, and the playoffs. We're also going to discuss our top 10 teams for North America and see kind of how those shake out after these two regional events and how they're going to look moving forward. Uh, and we're going to go over obviously our predictions from last week, and we're going to touch on the grid, which will be very short this week, even shorter than normal. So
Hmm.
um, let's just get right into this. So first things first, stage two, teams making it through: Kansas City Pioneers, NRG, Space Station G2, Envy, Peeps, Xset, and Alpine in that order. So the two 3-0s were KCP and NRG. A huge surprise from Kansas City, not so much so from NRG.
Yeah, I think Kansas City doing a sweep right off there, being the number one team, not losing a single game with three straight sweeps was super impressive. Not really expected at all, but very well deserved in every facet.
I agree. And NRG, the only reason falling to second place is because they lost one game to Jamal Jabari. And outside of that, then swept G2 and Envy. So uh, big stuff going on from NRG. And you'll see that performance continue into Sunday. Um,
It was rough seeing Rogue go almost to a 3-0 if they beat Kansas City Pioneers and then lost three straight and then they were knocked out.
yeah,
That was pretty entertaining to see.
and I
Just how close you can be to almost making it through, and then even beating a team that did make it through, and then you don't make it through.
Yeah, and then obviously because it was in rounds 3, 4, and 5, every team that they lost to made it into the playoffs with that win.
Yeah,
So it was every single game with them out, like Rogue ready to move through. They ran into another team that ended up moving through instead. Um, so we can talk about our predictions from last week.
yep.
You want to go first?
Um, I did better with my predictions in doing them. How they turned out was all right. I cheated and I said 2 3-0 teams. I got one of them right
Yeah.
with NRG. I meant it was meant to be like I picked
Yeah.
two of two,
Yeah.
and so I didn't get them right. I missed. I picked NRG and SSG because I mean, going in, that's what everybody really thought was going to be it.
Yeah.
And even though we knew Space Station had to play Envy, I was like, I think they could beat them. They did not. But then they won the next three and went 3-1. But I got that one correct with NRG being a 3-0. KCP kind of snuck in there. So that was pretty cool to see. And then I don't remember if I named multiple 3-2 teams. I think I might have only named the one, but I know I said Pittsburgh Knights was going to be
I
one,
think you
and
named
they
three. I thought you said KCP. I should have looked this up now. I think you said KCP, Envy, and Pittsburgh Knights because I remember
that's
you saying
probably
Envy on the 3-2.
that's probably what I said. I think that's exactly right. So I was wrong on all of them.
Yeah.
Two of them got in, but they both got in easy, like quicker. And then I was so close to the Pittsburgh Knights one, and I was like checking to see, and I was like, oh, this would be pretty cool because you and I talked about it, where it was like whoever wins out of the Alpine Pittsburgh Knights series was the one that would make it through, and the other one wouldn't.
Yeah.
And it turned out to not be the case.
Yeah.
And it was so close. I saw them playing X set in round five. I was like, here's my 3-2 prediction. And then they got swept instantly.
Yeah. And that was a rough series for the Knights too.
So it wasn't good for them, but it was, I was kind of close. So I'll take that. But how
Yeah, my
about you?
my two were NRG, and I think because again I was just picking one team. It was between NRG and SSG, and I just thought they're playing Envy in the first round. It could just be a harder matchup. There's always a chance they could lose it, and they did. And NRG, I was like, oh, they're playing Jamal Jabari, so they could get a sweep. But then they of course had to run into G2 and Envy. So luckily for me, they managed to take both of those series as well. And then for me, it came down to between Alpine and Pittsburgh Knights. I thought whoever was going to win that series was going to move on. That was not the case because I said, oh, whoever goes down will have to play either NRG or Space Station. I didn't think about it in the other direction either because Pittsburgh Knights won, then had to play Envy, and then ran into the Peeps. Whereas it's funny too because they both ended up playing Jamal Jabari, and that was a nice win for both of them. But Alpine getting the better result, winning against Plot Twist and Rogue as well in round five.
Yeah.
And so Rogue once again falling short of playoffs. Painful to see, but it helped me get it right, so I'm all for it. I don't really have, because again we're going quick. I don't
Yeah,
have
not
anything to
much out.
say
Not
about
much left.
this stage outside of the Peeps SSG series was really good, and I don't even want to talk about it that much because of that series they played in the playoffs, so we can just go right along with the playoffs for that.
Yeah, and that's the first one
And
that
that was the
you wanted
first,
to talk
yeah,
about.
that
That was
was
the first
the
one. Yep.
first playoff game of the day. First two games, nice long overtimes, over 3.5 minutes, over 2.5 minutes, one game apiece. And then Peeps won the next two to take it in 4 games. And SSG through this past weekend didn't look nearly as strong as they used to. They were like, because I always talked about how I loved watching SSG play because they had so many different ways that they were attacking, whether it was demos or infield passes or backboard plays. Like they could do it all. They weren't this past weekend. I don't know why. It just seemed like they were doing a lot of north-south playing. They weren't moving the ball side to side at all. And so all Peeps did was wait for them to come to them, took it, and then counterattacked and scored kind of whenever they did end up scoring. But SSG just couldn't change it up offensively, and because of that, the Peeps managed to take it, and they get to move on to the second round.
Yeah, I
Then,
thought that series was just so much exciting. It was a super great one to watch. Peeps are one of my favorite teams to watch, and I definitely agree with you. There was just like Space Station were just like not that dominant force that we've just been accustomed to the last few weeks. So it was pretty insane to just see them just beat them literally the last game for them the day before, and then they come out and can't beat them the next day. So
yeah, and then like I feel like a huge defining game was Game 3 because it was an even series. You go into Game 3, Peeps take the lead, and then a Rule 1 happened at the 3 minute and 40 second mark, and then not another goal was scored. And those two players, I want to say it was Sipical, and I can't remember who it was from Peeps. I want to say it was AJ. They just sat there the entirety of the game, and everyone else was like actively avoiding them,
yeah, it
so
was
not
pretty
to
funny
break
when
it.
they went over to him, and I saw someone jump over them to go hit
Yeah,
the ball so they wouldn't risk hitting it.
and you would think that would work in SSG's favor, having Arsenal and Reddles as your twos pair. Like that's an insanely good twos team, and yet
Yeah,
they somehow didn't score a single goal. Um, and so they should have been able to score in that situation, and because they couldn't, all the momentum was in Peep's favor. And then they just went on to win the next game.
yeah,
And then they ended up going against NRG, who was the winner of their series against XSET, which I think was one of my favorite series to watch from the
it was
day.
a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Another 5 game series. Outside of that Space Station Peeps game, every series in the quarterfinals went to Game 5. All went to Champions Field. This one, NRG won the first game, but then XSET looked so good in the next 2 games. Well, I mean, they looked good through the whole thing, but like they really looked like they had a chance to take the series. Um, and this new team with T Corral is just they're playing insane. Like they're very quickly climbing the ranks for North America, and just it was just a great series. There's not much more I can say.
Yeah, there really isn't. T. Carell has changed that team in my opinion, which is how well they are, and then um, they made it such much more of an interesting series than anybody would have expected. A lot of people were just saying, "Oh, 3-0 NRG, easy," and it was not that easy. It got to be easier towards the end, but especially the final game. But XSET really put up a fight, and it was a lot of fun. That series was plenty of fun. I loved how many game fives we had in the first round of the playoffs, but a lot of fun watching XSET with T. Carell now. So much more excitement on for them.
All right, and then we move right along to G2 Envy, which I think was anytime these two teams play, it's a ton of fun. Just because especially now that G2's come back to form. G2 is one of the strongest, just full offense teams, and Envy has one of the strongest defenses. And just to see the two go back and forth and which will win is just a lot of fun. Uh, and it came down to once again it came down to Champions Field, obviously, and Envy's defense held out, holding G2 to not a single goal. And then obviously, and as you can see by just the scores, their defense got better every single game. They allowed three, then two, then one with overtime, and then zero. And their defense was getting better and better, and their offense was able to hold and take down G2, which was another excellent series to watch.
I completely agree. Again, watching these two giants go against each other is just so interesting to watch Envy play. In my opinion, I just think it's like they can do basic. It's another one where it's like I don't think they're as good as like an SSG, but they're able to do. Even though they beat them the other on Saturday, I still think SSG is better. But it's like the ability to attack in so many different ways. And I think that just is because of Turbo being such a versatile player and just how it's like, even though if you just name who the top five Rocket League players are right now, he's probably not in the top five, like players, like ability wise, but it's just like his ability to do so many different things and just, it just feels like there's a presence around
Yeah,
him. And, that's just like so evident through it. And it's always so cool to see. It's like, usually you think about the better teams, it's like, whenever you like a lot of people think about it, it's like, oh, you want to be like best on the ball and like being able to get around everybody. They're just like, we're gonna go run straight into you, and we're gonna come at you head on, and you gotta either put up a fight or you're gonna go straight down. And it was a lot of fun watching them play G2 because both of those G2 has been on such a high lately, and Envy is also playing super well, so it was a lot of fun.
and that moves Envy into the second round where they bumped into Kansas
Play,
City, and their
yeah.
path to get there ran into Alpine.
And that Alpine series was so much fun. The first couple games were fine, but that game four was so like such a tide turn, right? Like that, it was so you could just see it, and it's like you don't even get to see any of the players, and it's like just the cars. But with 8 seconds to go, you're up one, and you already have a 2-1 series lead. You're just like, oh, we're through. And for Alpine, and then I believe it was Rapid 50'd the crap out of someone, went in. I have no idea why. I believe it was Jordan was just sitting behind whoever got 50. I'm like, why aren't you just sitting in net covering that the entire time with 8 seconds to go? But for some reason, he was right behind his teammate. And then in those 8 seconds, Alpine attacked one more time to get the ball out of their end. And then I think Rapid chucked it all the way down and read it off the backboard with no time left. And then you didn't even need overtime. And
Yeah.
they then took over for the final game. And then they beat Alpine through that to finish off in Champions Field to move straight on. But just seeing that tide turn was so insane. I mean, watching Kansas City the past week or two has been so exciting with how well they've been playing. Beast Mode's an absolute god at times. Rapid and Memory, both in their big dominances, are just like their 50 ability is so good. And it's not even just that, like how physical they can be. It's like their technical ability is also the up there with the best there is. So
Yeah.
that was a ton of fun to watch.
So we can move right along. I don't have near as much to say. I feel
Yeah.
you've nailed everything there. So we can move right along to Kansas City Envy, where Mist has been showing up those last. Well, I mean, he's always been good, but these last 2 days especially, he's been a huge part of Envy's success, and he was very much in the series as well. But I feel like he also finally got some help, and that's shown on the scoreboard with those multiple like 3 goal games from the team. Anytime they scored 3 goals in a game, they ended up beating Kansas City in that game. And the final two being shutouts, which shows like that Envy defense is still so good and so clutch when they need to be.
Yeah, the Envy defense is so strong. When you don't let up a goal for the final two games to just move through on that, that's so massive. It's just like their defending is up there with the best, and that's clear to see. KCP has been just such a high flying offense of late as well. So that for them to be able to shut them down was also pretty impeccable.
Yeah, and I mean you. you say that like the last two games were shutouts, but then also like dating back to the previous game as well. I don't know when Kansas City last scored their goal, but there was over 2 minutes of overtime, as well as back-to-back shutouts. So they probably went nearly 15 minutes without allowing a single goal to Kansas City, who
Yeah.
has been playing really strong offense these last like 2 weeks.
Well, that
So it's big.
that 15 minutes also reminds me of how long it took the Peeps to score in their
Yeah,
series with
yeah,
NRG. Oh my. And you'd think it's like the final game, so it's like you've already scored plenty of goals. Peeps did not score until game 4 when
yeah.
they'd already been shut out for 3 straight games. And then even though they got 1 goal, they let up 7, got Braziled in game
Yeah.
4 of the semifinals for the regional event. Oh
And
my,
I,
that series was so hard to watch.
and I think this shows like we were talking about it last week that like if Justin's not on, Energy isn't playing well. And I think that's just because Squishy was kind of quiet, but this past weekend Squishy finally like hit his stride with NRG. And this is what we've been waiting for since the season started. This is what we've been waiting for NRG to start doing. And this is why I
Yeah.
was so kind of down on them recently because it's like I knew they could do this. They're slapping around the Peeps who just beat Space Station, who sure they didn't look as good, but it's still the same Space Station roster. So it was bad. Like Squishy was just playing unreal this past weekend, and Justin as well. Like honestly, I think Justin may have been the man of the match for a couple of these games through like a couple of these series through the playoffs. But a huge part of that was Squishy finally like you know playing like he used to.
Yeah, it was funny that we had talked about how it's like, ooh, I mean, like NRG is good, but like, is like how's Squishy really fitting in? And then
Yeah,
he was just like, "Oh, you were talking. This Plat Rats podcast was talking about me. No,
yeah.
no, no way."
He's
And
a
then
huge fan.
yeah, he watches all of them. So it was cool to see them like actually click. And it wasn't that they weren't clicking as much; it was just like that they weren't going up to their potential. And
Yeah,
then they really just showed their entire class in that series. And it did not stop
yeah. From one
into the
sweep to
final.
the next.
Yeah, they went into the finals versus Envy, which has been a probably one of the most frequent finals we've seen so far in RCSX,
Yeah,
and it's always funny to see because it's like Turbo versus old team, and it sometimes goes back and forth. This one, even though the first 2 games went to OT, NRG was just like a different breed,
yeah.
and they were the best team um of the day and of they that's why they deserved it. If you go sweep to sweep, you're showing off right there how good you are.
And
And I'm definitely with you. I think Justin was the guy, no doubt about it. But Squishy and Garrett's, especially Squishy's production was very high as well
yeah.
to help them through.
And I mean, if nothing else, just go watch the first minute of game one. I think there were 4 goals scored in the first 30
Yes.
seconds of game
Yep.
one.
Yep.
Like it was just 4 kickoff goals in a row, 2 for Energy and then 2 for Envy, and then Justin put in chat like "beautiful start everyone" or something like
Yeah.
that. Like
Yeah. He did.
just like what is going on, and then yeah, it's and all of these games were 1 goal games, so like it very could have easily any of these games could have gone in Envy's way, but Energy they were so strong on the pitch like all day. Like
Yeah.
there was no denying NRG is what it came down to,
I'm
and
with you.
Envy couldn't.
So NRG are the regional champs for
Yep.
regional event too.
And now,
Now we can
now
talk
that
about
we
our
know
top 10.
NRG is a regional champ, we can talk about where they sit in our top 10. So, do you want to do this the same way we did it last time, where
Yeah, I
you
think
rattle off
last
your
time was
top
better.
10,
Yeah,
and then
I think that worked out.
I say,
Do you want me to go?
yeah, go
It,
from 10 to 1 because I feel like that's
okay.
more interesting. So, yeah.
My number 10 is Pittsburgh Knights.
Okay.
Um then my number 9 was Xset.
Okay.
8 is Rogue.
Okay.
7 is Alpine.
Yeah.
6 is KCP.
Okay.
5 is Envy.
Okay.
4 is Peeps.
All right.
3 is G2.
All right.
2 is SSG.
All right.
And then I think NRG is the
And
best team in NA.
okay. We have nearly an identical top 10 list right now.
I figured we were gonna have pretty similar ones. I think it's like even we were talking about this the other day, and it's like you could easily switch these around, but I think it's like there's right now there's a pretty clear couple of like spots. Like you have to say NRG or SSG is top one and two.
Yeah.
Like you have to say one of them is the top. Um, and then I think your next four have to be G2, Peeps, Envy, KCP.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of those could switch around. I think KCP I would never put them three, but I think they deserve to be in that next round of four.
Yeah.
And then I think Alpine, Rogue, and Xset could be like your next three. And then the last Xset and Pittsburgh Knights were a little iffy for me to pay like who I would slot in there.
Yeah.
I think Sonics are still good. Like right now they're bad. There's no doubt, no dancing around that. They're not playing good. And I don't trust version one at all. I do not think they're good.
Yeah.
E United is so iffy right now. I think Tristan coming on their team, nice pickup. Omelet's so weird because they played so well in the summer and then now they're not great. Plot twist, same thing as Omelet, in my opinion, where they were so good in the summer. And then we like Nefarious after their performance, but I don't think they go get
Yeah.
close
No.
to the top 10, really. But I think you probably have a similar, you might have
Yeah.
exactly the same 10
It's
people.
it's. I'll tell you this. It is the exact same 10. The order is
Yeah.
slightly different.
Yeah, I figured. All right. I want to
Our
hear
top
yours.
three are all the same: NRG, SSG, G2. Where we
Hmm.
differ right away is I'd say Envy over Peeps.
Yeah. I figured you were going to do that.
Because I mean, Envy made it to the grand final. Peeps didn't. Granted, they both got swept, but Envy's games against NRG were way closer, and Envy has shown like consistency, like as well as like through the grid. Like they've been playing solid in the grid as well. So I just and Envy's just they're playing really well right now. I can't put for me it's like those are the top four teams, and then Peeps are five. Like I feel like I have a bigger discrepancy between Peeps and Envy. Um, KCP Alpine, I also have at 6 and 7. Now where we differ is our final three. You went Rogue X set Pittsburgh Knights. I'm going Pittsburgh Knights Rogue X set. I think
Could you repeat that again?
yeah, I Pittsburgh Knights at 8, Rogue at 9, X set at 10.
Okay.
I have X set at 10 simply because it could be like a honeymoon phase. T Curl just joined. We don't know how consistent they are. It's a huge jump right away, so I could very easily see them climbing this list very quickly if they keep their consistency up and continue to show that they can. Because they nearly beat NRG. They were the closest team to beating NRG all weekend. So they deserve to be in this top 10 list. It's just a matter of consistency. We'll put them higher or lower on this list.
Yeah.
Rogue, I have below Pittsburgh Knights for the same reason. Rogue's consistency is terrible. I think
It's
they,
not the
I
best.
think they have a higher skill ceiling than Pittsburgh Knights. I tried to find a matchup where they played each other. They haven't played each other yet in RLCSX. I don't think.
Yeah.
They may have in Regional One. I don't remember if I checked Regional One, but they haven't played once in the grid, and they didn't play at all in Regional Event Two. But yeah, Rogue's consistency is all over the place. They're slightly better in the grid than the Knights are, but the Knights have played better in regional events than Rogue has, and those weigh a lot heavier. So for that, I put the Knights ahead of Rogue, and then that's basically it. Except the only reason it's 10 is consistency, and the only reason Knights are above Rogue is consistency as well.
Yeah.
And
No, I think we both had. I figured we had similar ones for the top 10.
yeah, it's 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 pretty yeah. I'm liking our lists. I'm excited to see how they all kind of flesh out because you could still argue SSG at number one simply because of
Yeah.
how good they've been, but like it's just they just didn't show up in this regional and they haven't played
Yeah.
nearly as well in the last couple grids. Like honestly, you could argue G2 over SSG right now.
At the moment, yeah.
G2 is winning grids left and right. The only team they lost to, or like one of the only teams they lost to, this past weekend is teams like NRG and Envy, who Envy's right below them. But I think again, flip a coin, roll a die, do whatever you need to do. One of those teams will win. Um, but G2 is like hitting their stride now, so it's like you could argue G2 over SSG, and I'd be okay with that. So yeah, I think that's our top 10.
Yeah.
Pretty strong list. And for anyone wondering, you know, anything else, feel free to like throw a comment in. I'll respond. But I think KCP Alpine consistently making it far and doing pretty well on the grid. The top five teams shouldn't have any question in the order, sure, but like again, ask us if you have any questions. We'll get back to you. We can move right along to the grid then.
Yeah, I think we can quickly go through the grids. I feel like for the EU grid, I thought the only real takeaway is Vitality swept Monkeys in the final. So Vitality wins another grid because I know it's not their first one.
Yeah.
And they weird teams, not weird. I would say weird. Yeah. Different teams made it into the playoffs that you would really expect. I think interesting to see Guild there. Singularity, Triple Trouble, and Monkeys. I think those four
Yeah.
teams making it in are interesting ones. I think Guild's good enough to sometimes make the playoffs. We both know that Triple
Yeah.
Trouble and Singularity can be good too. And Monkeys was a pretty big surprise, especially with them sweeping Oxygen, beating Top Blokes 4-1, and then making it all the way to the final, but not having only scoring 2 goals. So that wasn't great for them. But I think it was interesting to see these different teams make it, and it was interesting to see like BDS not even make it out of one round.
Yeah.
Dignitas finally won a game, so
That's exciting.
that must make you happy. There you
Oh,
go.
yeah, I didn't. I again obviously didn't watch. I missed every single grid game from this past week, but so I can just
Uh,
talk about it, just kind of how it performed. Like I know as much as anyone else does right now.
and then Endpoint didn't even make it out of a single thing either. I don't know why Chalked is a team still if they're
Yeah,
forfeiting.
because I know they've like half the team has left. Like the Chalk has been like disbanded. I'm pretty sure. So I have no idea what the deal is
Well, I
there.
think it's still just a lot Mongoose, and then they don't have a third, and they've had to keep
I
swapping
thought
them.
I saw two players just leave though.
Well, I mean, I don't know why they're a team. So,
Yeah. Hold up, let me check.
yesterday, 5 days ago, they forfeit the remaining map weeks of RLCSX, the grid, fall, and disband.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because yeah, 918 a lot Magnus chalked to
Oh,
none.
they're
So they
going
both
to
left.
From the Air, new team.
Oh, also,
Mongus, Tossus, and Ederf. Holy
we should probably mention
Ederf.
this before we get too far away from it. Shock has been benched. I'm curious your thoughts on that. Did you hear about that?
Uh, I did not.
Oh, yeah. They right now he's still on Sonics, but he is now inactive, and they've brought in Roldiz.
Why?
I don't really know exactly. All we know is Sonics haven't been good, and as we talked about last week, uh, Shock was was a big reason why they were winning last year, and he's not doing anything this year. Shock seems to be the question mark, and so I guess they think sub him out because I mean, again, he's still on the roster,
Yeah. They didn't cut
so
him.
I'm curious how their team with Roldiz does. So I'm gonna keep an eye on them in the coming weeks here.
Yeah, I think that'll be interesting.
Because I don't feel like I haven't granted I haven't been watching a whole lot of Roll Diz play. I don't feel like he's that great of an offensive player, and I feel like that's where Sonics are struggling. But who knows? This could, with a new player, could bring in a new play style, and like really, who knows?
It'll be interesting. I like Shock a lot, so it's sad to see him get dropped. But I mean, they have not been playing good.
Yeah.
So they play Envy first game tomorrow, the grid tomorrow. So um,
Um, but yeah, going back to the EU grid. Yeah, you notice right away BDS only getting one win, and it was against Singularity, getting swept by Vitality. Dignitas finally getting a win. It was a sweep over a team that had to make a substitute. So it was they played Libertas, but RizX wasn't in. So you don't know if that's like it's probably a factor to some extent. But I mean, they still
yeah,
swept them, so that's a good showing. But then they run into Singularity, and then they're out. So after obviously losing to Top Blokes, just to run into Libertas to begin with. But I think you're saying with the quarterfinals being, I'm not too surprised by Guild making it in because we've seen them get in here before.
yeah. I think
I
it was
think
just interesting because they
yeah,
aren't always a super like guaranteed
yeah,
home
because
run
they're
to be
like
in.
yeah they're a top 10 team, and then obviously this is like 8 teams making it into the qualifier. I think not so much that they made it in, but I was just impressed by the teams they beat. They managed to beat Endpoint and Giants to make it through, and a Giants team who just swept Oxygen. So they probably were playing pretty well, and then obviously went into 7 games against the Blokes as well. So Giants weren't
Yeah.
playing poorly, and Guild beat them, so that's always a positive for Guild fans. Monkeys. This is a team to watch out for right now in Europe because they've always been they were pretty good. They made the switch for Arju. They had a nice jump, but now I mean they beat Vitality, they beat Singularity, then they go on and sweep Oxygen. They beat Toplugs, who just beat the Giants, and then Vitality gets their revenge in the final, and that's
Yeah.
just what Vitality does. They make it to finals and they win. So
Hmm.
um, you can't fault the Monkeys. That was
Yeah,
an
you can't. No.
impressive run for sure. And then Triple Trouble, I feel like most of these teams in the quarterfinals are top 10 teams. Singularity, probably outside that. Triple Trouble, I'd say, is still in the top 10. Monkeys are not in the top 10, but who knows? They could be
No.
now. We might do another top 10 after the first major. We might,
Yeah.
depending on how things go. We could always make that its own separate, like a shorter podcast where we just talk about top 10 teams because that can be kind of a fun thing to do as well.
Hmm.
But yeah, so Europe looking interesting to say the least through that grid, and North America didn't disappoint either.
Yeah, North America. I had much less to talk about really with this one. It was just interest. It was cool to see United make it to the playoffs immediately after their roster change. So that was cool to see that Tristan being a factor on their team
Hmm.
instantly was a positive.
And losing to G2 and 7, and we just
Yeah,
harped about how good G2 has been.
and G2 also were given a free game at the
Yeah, they
beginning.
had a game
So
advantage. Yeah,
and they had a 3-2 lead advantage on it, and then G2 had to won the last two. And then uh, G2 sweeping NRG
yeah,
um, in the final. So I thought that was like pretty insane to see how the grid. I think the grid's so much different though than the
yeah.
a regional,
That's not
but
quite the
it's
same stakes.
yeah. But I think G2 winning this one, it was another one because they've won at least a couple now.
Yeah, I think this is back to back.
Yeah, so they're on fire at the moment for grids specifically. So we'll see how they do tomorrow.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, that's all I really had for this one. There wasn't much else. And
yeah,
the only other thing was KCP beat SSG again in here.
yeah. This is showing people arguing, oh, SSG is better than NRG. You again look to this grid. You see Space Station losing to Kansas City, and losing to the Peeps again. You see NRG sweeping Rogue, sweeping E United, beating Kansas City, sweeping the Knights, and then losing to G2. So it's like they're NRG's destroying teams beneath them and having competitive games with teams right on their level. Whereas SSG, now once again getting 3-1 by the Peeps. Um, and then Sonics didn't win a single game again this week. So that's painful. And I don't remember because I don't remember like how this went. I don't know if this was with Shock or if this was with Roldiz. So if it is with Roldiz, yikes! You make a change and don't win a single game. Granted, it was
It says on here, Roldiz was the
ooh,
third.
okay. So that's not good. You make a change, and then, I mean, of course, it was Envy and Space Station, but not a single game off of either of them. Uh, Scary stuff
Yeah,
for
because they have Tristan
for
in there as the
Sonics.
third. So yeah, they updated it. So yeah, Roldiz played in this grid for them, and they didn't win a game. So
All right. Yeah.
oof, oof. But they did play Envy and SSG, who
Yeah.
are two
Exactly.
teams that are definitely better. But
Yeah.
yep,
So yeah, that's how things went in the grid as well, and it was another solid weekend of Rocket League. I guess week because the grid wasn't just on the weekend. You got another full week of Rocket League in. Too much to even keep up with, especially for just two people. But we do our best to keep you informed, let you know what's going on, and and we'll be back again next week with some more EU.
well, we'll be able to talk about the entire EU regional event 3.
Yep.
Because it'll be complete by then. So it'll be fun to watch all
Yeah.
this weekend.
Who do you think's gonna win?
Mm, It'd be cool to see BDS go for the three beat.
That's my thought. I'm thinking
That'd be cool.
BDS or Vitality because
They've been
Vitality can just pop off if
on
they need to.
fire. They've been on fire, so it's probably gonna be BDS.
All right. So watch out for BDS and Vitality. Our two, if not BDS, it's Vitality. That's what we're
Yep,
telling
probably.
you.
Yep.
So yeah, stay tuned. More podcasts coming out every week. We might start. I'm thinking about doing some supplementary things like other things here and there to post. All in the works. So don't. The one viewer listening right now, don't expect anything super soon. But yeah, thanks for stopping by. Wally,
Thank
thanks for
you.
joining me. And
Thank you for having me.
oh, literally every time. Uh, anytime and every time. And we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Bye.